writer-director. I've been in LA for about 25 years. I started off as an actress for 11 and decided to go back to school. I decided that, I liked telling and creating stories more than I liked being in them. I realized I became an actor because I wanted to be in that industry, and I liked the whole idea of dropping into worlds that were not of my own and that I could create whatever I wanted. So that's why I just decided, that writing and directing was really, really where it was at for me. My best attribute is, God, I don't know. I guess some might find it annoying. It just depends how bad the giggles get, but I am like the little girl in the back of church that always finds the humor in everything, especially if, someone is sad or upset. I always try to make people laugh. It's like a defense mechanism. Yeah. I really wish my entire experience in LA, when I used to audition, I always wished people would stop asking me if my dad was Joseph D'Alessandro, who was in all the Andy Warhol films. He was like the big hunk in all the Warhol films, and his name was Joseph D'Alessandro. And I actually found out he runs this motel, and I want to go meet him because my dad was Joseph D'Alessandro, and I would always say, my dad is Joseph D'Alessandro, but he's not that Joseph D'Alessandro. So yeah, I wish people would stop asking me that. What am I completely over and done with? I think I'm completely over and done with trying to fix caring like what people think about me, or trying to, trying to be what other people want me to be, and just be comfortable with I am who I am, and I'm a little rough around the edges, and sometimes, I guess, I don't know, and I'm just kind of over trying to figure out, obviously I am who I am, and, I can't always try to better myself, but, I guess trying to care about, why everybody can't like me. I'm kind of over that, just try to do my best and be a good person, and you're not gonna please everybody. That if you are assertive, you're a bitch. The worst thing about being a female is that if you're assertive and confident, that you're a bitch. Having to be so many different females. There are so many different kinds of women in this world. And depending on what room you're in or who you're speaking to, it's like you feel like you have to be that kind of woman. And then you forget, well, what kind of woman am I? Am I the assertive bitch? Am I the proper? Am I sweet? Am I the boss? Am I the person who's just the go-getter and helpful? But I'm all of those things. I'm not just one kind of woman, and it just depends what one shows up. And that is the most difficult thing, is feeling like you have to be a certain kind of woman, Like back in the 50s, women wore that kind of woman, and it was very clear how they were supposed to be. Was that hard for them? I mean, I have seen videos online of women from the 40s and 50s, and even back then, they felt this need to go to work, but were talked down to for going to work, for getting an education. Other women looking down on them like they were the devil or evil, or there was something wrong with them. Why would you want to go to work and not just stay home and cook for your... I mean, I have seen videos of women having these conversations on camera, two women. One's the happy wife being at home, probably miserable and doesn't even know why. And then the other woman who's educated, a teacher, also a mother, probably also cooks for her husband, but she's more than that. And seeing these two women have this conversation, and one woman just being so confused, you know, and the other woman trying to make her understand, you know, and I was shocked to see this black and white video of an interview like this with two women, same age, completely on the opposite end of the spectrum of what is a woman and what is the hardest thing about being a woman, the question you just asked me. And it's just like everything else going on in this world that we see playing over and over and over and over and over again. You know, there are just some things that we're never going to understand why we can't make them better. Why some people just see it and know how to fix it. We know how we can fix it. But then they're the other end of the spectrum that just, whatever their motivations are, they don't want it to be fixed. Sorry, I just made that a whole nother thing, but it's, yeah. I think the best thing about being a woman is that I feel like we have a sense, I don't know if it's because we have the potential of being a mother and birthing something, or our intuition, that woman's intuition. I mean, it has to be something, because that, again, we hear that repeated over and over and over in history. Why do we call the earth Mother Earth? Because it gives life. I don't know. Now that I'm a mom of two little girls, just like the love, you know, the love, being able to get into any situation and just handle it, right? You know, and I don't know, and be able to work with men and have that, you know, counterbalance, you know, the masculinity and femininity. If we didn't have either one of those things, you wouldn't appreciate the other one. There would be no there would be no woman if there was without a man, right? We wouldn't get to appreciate the differences. I don't know, just being able to see life in the bigger picture. I don't know. Being able to be connected to the world. I don't know, being able to give birth, being able to have the opportunity to be a mother. It's a gift. I think a woman in my life or person who has been the most influential in my life has definitely been my grandmother. She raised me. I spent all my summers with hers, my mom's moms. We were very close. And she taught me, she grew up in New York, in Brooklyn, that's where I'm from, and she would always tell me about the Jewish and Italian neighborhoods that they lived in. And so she would tell me about the different culture and without, I think, her even knowing, she instilled in me tolerance and understanding that even though I was raised very Catholic and they were Jewish, she never said Catholicism is the right way, Judaism is the right way. She would tell me how, like, there would be a Jew and an Italian, and that they would get married, and then they would just let their children decide what they were going to be. And I just thought, that just felt so right to me. As a little girl, she was teaching me tolerance, even though or understanding of other cultures, and to try to put yourself in someone else's shoes she wasn't like some heady woman, but she was just, by her sharing like her life and her experiences, she was teaching me that. And she always supported me and was always there for me and loved me and taught me how to be a respectful woman. Like, she was so Catholic, and when I was a little girl and I would play with the kids in the neighborhood, there were these two little boys that would come up on their bikes and stand at the end of the driveway and call to me to come. I'm like 8 years old. And she'd say, you know, they'd say, "Can Amy come out and play?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I want to go out and play." And she'd be like, "They have to come to the door. You're no alley cat." I'm 8 years old. These boys aren't coming to ask me out on a date. They just wanted to play. But But she instilled that in me. And so when I grew up, I always was, the boy had to come to me, and she just taught me how to respect myself and how to stand my ground. And she wore a shirt that said, "Nobody messes with Tina." Like she was, and so I always wanted to be like that. I wanted to walk into a room and have someone know not to mess with me. You know what I mean? And not in a badass, like, I'll fuck you up way. Sorry, I don't know if I could say that, but I wanted people to feel that way. Like I had control. It was more like I had control. Like she always had control of the situation by helping, by just being strong in who she was and what she stood for. And I don't know, she was just instilled that in me, and I think that it's just in me, her, and I always want to bring her into every room that I step into because, I lost her and I was young and I just moved to LA and she was my strength, and so I like to remember her as I go through my career and bring her with me. The biggest lesson that life has taught me is that absolutely anything is possible. That there is not just one life in this life. That, we're born and we are young and we have these dreams and we go on that path and you follow it. And you have to look for the messages, right? I mean, there are messages out there if you look for them. And I've always looked for the messages, especially, being a dreamer. I think you have to be a dreamer to be out here and be in this industry. You have to. And you have to trust those thoughts. And it doesn't always, your path isn't always, it's never a straight line. It's absolutely never a straight line. And I mean, as cliche as it sounds, you just don't give up and you keep going and putting one foot in front of you and you don't give up, and that the person that you start off as is not always the person that you become. There's always a little bit of you, but it's just, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, I guess not to judge that person that you become. To be able to look at yourself and, I don't know, with kindness, with understanding, and, I don't know. But that if you just keep going, you always wind up where you're supposed to be. And just to trust that. If you do not give up, you will wind up where you're supposed to be. It will not look the way that you thought it would look sometimes, but, to find that joy in the journey and, all these things sound cliche, but it's super true, I feel like. I don't know what word best describes me. What word do you think best describes me? I never look at myself that way. Whimsical. I don't know. Complicated. I don't know. What is my ideal perfect mate? I'll have to think on this one. Oh yes, I have one. Okay. My ideal perfect mate, he's the father of my children. And his name is James, and he is an amazing father. He loves his daughters, and he, I guess someone who is just loving, caring, who can handle me and all of my emotions and ups and downs and, stubbornness, But he's an amazing father, and someone who's up for just, anything. You know, someone who wants to go on a hike and, you know, get out, go climb a mountain, and then, you know, go and, you know, play some backgammon before we go to bed, you know. I don't know. My first kiss was in the 2nd grade, and his name was Eric Smithfield. This is a good story. Eric Smithfield. He lived across the street, and, you know, back then we didn't have anything better to do. We'd be playing in fields and building forts, and then it was like, you two go in the garage and you guys kiss. And it was a dark garage, and we both were like in the dark. I mean, we were young, in the 2nd grade, like the silly sweet kiss. I'm telling you about the silly sweet kiss. And we went to kiss, and we're both super shy, like went to kiss, like just kiss. And my brother was kissing his girlfriend, and she screams, "Oh, he stuck his tongue down my throat." And we just started laughing, and yeah, it was silly. But I don't know, like a serious kiss? Are you talking a serious kiss? Like a serious kiss. I was a late bloomer, so I did not, you know, date or any, like I said, I was raised very Catholic. So my first kiss was in high school, my freshman year. I had the biggest crush on the vice president of our school. His name was Brian Lindemann, and he was 3 years older than me, and I was very, very, very shy. And I remember from all the like romance movies that women always like put their hands, you know, in like the 1950s movies, they always like put their hands on the man's cheek, right? That was like the whole thing, and it was like very dramatic. And I did that because I had no idea what to do. And so I went to kiss him, and I would put my hand on his face while I was kissing him. And he looked at me one day and he was like, "Why do you keep putting your hand on my face?" Like, high school is always awkward. But I was like, I don't know, because they always did it in the 1950s movies, and I thought that was what you were supposed to do. You know, it was very romantic. I wanted it to be romantic and mean something, and I saw, you know, so that was my first kiss, and it was... If I was on a desert island, I think the one person that I would want to be there, because I couldn't just pick one person from my family. Like, I have 2 daughters, I can't just pick one of them. I'm not gonna pick my husband over them. So it has to be someone totally out of that realm. I think that it would have to be Jesus. I mean, there's so many questions I have. And the man can turn water into wine, and we would have some conversations about the universe and what the hell's going on in the world, and you know, maybe we'd figure out some way to fix it, and then we could magically, you know, do that. If I ever met myself at a party, would I hang out with myself? Did my other self like horses the way that I do? I don't know. It's me. I think I would. I think I would like hanging out with myself, especially after a few margaritas. You know, it's like, yeah. If I had one superpower, it would definitely have to be to take every child in this world and make sure that they had the best life and opportunity that they could have. I'm sure everybody said this, but I would definitely end loneliness and hunger. And anytime I see someone walking on the street, it just kills me. Do I see an optimistic future in our country? I do. And we have to. Because we have to understand that the media is, you know, they seem like they're in control, and we get I can't even watch the news, because all they show is the negative. Like, sometimes we get to see the silly moment of like the cat that, you know, someone saved from the tree, and I mean, I've literally seen that on the news. a million times, you know, or a sweet something, you know. But it's mostly the negative. And so, you know, people like you doing what you do, us as filmmakers doing what we do, you know, or we have to see the positive in our country. And I think that we're gonna have to be the ones to see the positive and show the positive. That's what I think. I think that there is. I think that there are generations coming and that are already here that are going to hopefully turn our country around. I have to believe that. You know, I have to believe that that we are going to continue to fight for the truth. You know, and even though it seems very scary, and that it seems like sometimes we don't get clear answers, right? But we have to stand with each other, and we have to have conversations on a daily basis with each other and speak the truth to each other and try to find groups or people to surround ourselves that are also looking for that truth and to get that out there. You know, because the more that we give them control over what we see and that we believe it, I mean, I think that we have to see the reality of what's going on in our country, right? I mean, it's split. But isn't it funny how we don't see anything about Black Lives Matter or whatever has been going on? Like, okay, what's Trump doing? What's our president doing? What's our president doing? You know, what's going on? All of a sudden, all that drops, and you know, so we need to keep putting that voice out there. Like, let's get some updates about what's going on in our country. Are we still this torn? Like, are we still this two-sided? You know, like, we need people on the ground that are having conversations to open it up, you know, to connect people and keep the conversations going and keep talking about it. You know, what is defunding the police? What do we have to call it that? What is, you know, is it really that? Like, why are people pushing these narratives that are so negative? People just make up anything they want and they put it out there, and that's the way it is. And people are brainwashed. They're just brainwashed. You know, you speak to someone on the other side and it's just like they're all saying the same thing. They all have the same, you know, but I have hope. I have hope. Do you?